Hi folks, I'm author and speaker Douglas Kruger, and welcome to the channel where we talk about work, wealth, and how you can position yourself as a top expert in your industry. In yesterday's video, I promised that I'd help you to start your year off with some thoughts on goal setting in an interesting way. I like the idea of theme setting, and I have 3 proposals for you for this year in terms of how you can change your thinking, change your outlook, and by doing so, change your own behaviors leading to different results. Here's my first proposal, and it's an interesting one. I would like you to ditch the "everything is crazy, what an awful year" narrative. Let me explain what I mean by this one. If you have spent more than 5 seconds on social media over the course of the past couple of years, you will have seen this, and you'll have seen a lot of it. It's the whole "how crazy things have become" narrative, and we do it unthinkingly and reflexively. It has become popular to say, "what an awful year," and then to post a meme about how the next year is waiting to beat you up, how everything is wrong and everything is crazy, and you see people doing it all the time. One of the worst offenders that I saw was an article by the Sydney Morning Herald out of Australia, emblazoned with this big headline saying, "2019, the year madness became normal." Madness, I tell you. And I look at that and I think, all right, what's going on there? Essentially, it boils down to this. The commentator is saying, people are practicing political beliefs that I don't agree with, therefore everything has turned to madness. And it's a lot of fear-mongering and it's a lot of negativity and pessimism. Here is what articles like that and thought of that nature fail to appreciate. Some things have happened in the course of the past 10 years alone that are so remarkable that we could easily argue these have been the best years our species has ever seen. From 2010 to 2020, here are just a few of the impressive metrics we have achieved. In those 10 years alone, we grew 28% of all wealth that our species has ever created. 28%, it's almost a third of the wealth that humanity has ever generated happened in the last 10 years. Those years that people have been saying are awful, terrible, going in the wrong direction. And the result of that, number 2, is that global poverty rates, extreme poverty, has been halved. Now that one is so important, let me just say that again. As a result of the last 10 years worth of productivity and the raising of 1/3 of the wealth our species has ever seen, our extreme poverty rates have been cut in half in the last 10 years. Now that doesn't sound like madness to me. To me, that sounds like very good news. Sounds like hope, and it sounds like we're doing something right. Here are just 2 more of the wonderful metrics to come out of the past decade. Death by pollution is down 19%, and child mortality rates have been cut by 1/3. That is phenomenal, and that is worth celebrating. So here's my challenge to you. When you see people unthinkingly sharing these ideas about how terrible last year was and next year's going to be even worse, don't fall for it, and don't do it. Why does it matter? Because a fundamentally pessimistic outlook changes your behavior. If you buy into the idea that everything is crazy, everything is mad, everything is headed downhill, and you miss these metrics that say this has been the best decade in human history, then the chances are you will act pessimistically. You will not, for example, start your own business. You will not start projects. You might not even start a family, and I think that's kind of a tragic one. All of these behavioral outputs that change as a result of fundamental pessimism. Fundamental optimism changes things. You start to appreciate that you and this generation have more resources available, more opportunities available, more ideas available than any other generation in human history. And the last 10 years have increased our resources and our ability to do exponentially. That's good news. So I said 3 thought proposals for the year. That's the first one. Drop the "everything is crazy" narrative. It simply isn't true. Idea number 2. Focus on, read about, and relentlessly pursue the idea of raising your value. Now here, I don't care what it is that you do for a living, whether you're employed, whether you work for yourself, whether you're launching a project. The key to all of it, the key to all successful economics, is the idea of offering value to other human beings. Now, I unpack that in quite some detail in Poverty Proof and the new book coming out this year, Poverty Proof for Entrepreneurs. But the basic concept is this: the more value you offer to others, the greater your wealth potential becomes. And in Poverty Proof for Entrepreneurs, I offer some 15 or so ways for you to raise your value. I did a video on that one. Check out the link, get the ideas, listen to it. It's a slightly longer video, but it provides you with practical ways to think about how you can raise your value regardless of your scenario. That's number 2. And number 3, I hope I can persuade you to join me on this one, because this is something I'm doing this year. Commit to spending less time viewing depressing social media feeds and more time actually reading. Now, this is one I don't want you to leave up to chance. I want you to have a plan for how you're going to go about doing this. So instead of just vaguely saying to yourself, all right, I'll spend less time on Facebook, I'll spend more time reading, work out how you're going to do that. Here are a couple of practical suggestions for this one. Number 1, download the Kindle app onto your phone and make a plan of this. Instead of launching Facebook or Instagram or Twitter when you have a little time on your hands, make a point of launching the Kindle app and reading instead. That is, instead of going onto social media spaces where you will brainwash yourself and inundate yourself with messages about how mad things are and how awful the world around you has become. Even though the stats don't bear it out, the numbers and the narrative do not agree. You've got to get away from the narrative. If you're going to get away from the narrative, why not spend more time reading? Reading is the shortcut to everything. It is the smart cut access point to any idea you need and to solving any problem you might have. So make a point of downloading the Kindle app, or alternatively, how about this? Leave your book by the door. When you're planning on going out and you might have some time to spare, perhaps you're going for a cup of coffee, going for a doctor's appointment, take the book with you. Pack it into the bag, pack it into the car, make sure it travels with you and that you develop the habit of simply taking out the book and reading wherever you go. Or third option, you could do what I absolutely love, and I just can't get enough of this, listen to audiobooks from Audible. I download them, I listen to them when I'm at gym, I listen to them when I'm traveling. I actually don't listen to the radio anymore and very rarely listen to music. Most of the time, I'm either listening to a Dean Koontz creepy thriller, or perhaps I'm reading the latest thing about human development, the brain, psychology, philosophy, whatever lights me up that day. Can you do it? Will you do it? Drop the everything is doom and gloom narrative. Focus on and obsess about raising your value this year. That can become a thought theme for you. And commit to spending less time on depressing, lying social media and more time reading. What do you think? Train your mind with good education, aim your intelligence in the right direction, and you could own your industry.